What's going on, everybody? Bobbybarks here, and welcome to my review for episode 7 of HBO's The Last of Us TV show. If you're not caught up on the show as yet, then careful for spoilers. As the title would suggest, Left Behind adapts the 2014 DLC content from the original Last of Us video game, but on a much more streamlined and intimate scale. While Ramsay has had a pretty solid presence throughout the entire series, always delivering whenever the spotlight is on Ellie, she's joined by guest star Storm Reed to keep the audience's attention riveted squarely on the two of them for much of the episode. This masterful performance is especially apparent in the extended flashback as they make the viewer almost forget this is a post-apocalyptic horror story instead of a coming-of-age drama. That's the true testament to The Last of Us' enduring quality. Whenever it operates outside the genre pocket that its premise often relegates and restricts lesser shows to, the show knows how to deliberately pace its standalone episodes, not overstaying their welcome, but also giving its characters the room to breathe, often in service of telling heart-rending love stories. But whereas the show's third episode was an exploration of finding love and happiness at the end of the world, Left Behind offers a grimmer look at love's survival rate in the midst of an apocalypse. Left Behind isn't an episode that relies on spectacle or bombastic moments, but it does bring a fair amount of mounting tension and thorough sense of dread. A clear threat is introduced halfway through the episode, and rather than constantly checking in on it, Left Behind forces the viewer to remember it and create the suspense all by themselves. Given what the audience already knows about Ellie, the outcome is a bit predictable, but Ramsay and Reed make the scenes work. Far from the nostalgia and neon-tinged spaces of a Boston mall, the episode begins in a very different dreamlike state. A bloody trail leads to an abandoned building, the camera's use of crossfade mirroring Joel falling in and out of consciousness. As an opening, it carries a wondrous, ethereal quality that answers just enough of the viewer's questions before diving back into Ellie's past. And some of you might feel a little bit short-changed by last week's cliffhanger being answered so abruptly and definitively from the outset. But this isn't Joel's story. Weeks or months prior to the events of The Last of Us, isn't really quite made that clear, but Ellie is tired and frustrated, housed at a Fedra academy and being picked on by a teen bully that isn't Abby, by the way. It's not until she joins up with Riley, now enlisted in the Firefly cause, where she stops lashing out and starts connecting with her bestie again, even if the early hints are there that there's something more bubbling under the surface. As Riley sneaks in Ellie's room, the pair abscond on a trip to a nearby mall for Ellie's dream day out. It's on the merry-go-round, one of 5 wonders Riley wants to show Ellie alongside a photo booth, escalators, an arcade and a costume shop, where Left Behind showcases that feeling and does some of its best work. The sequence, which lasts only a few minutes, effectively utilises shimmering light and Ellie's lovelorn looks to wordlessly communicate their relationship. It teases out more about a child's character's coming of age than dialogue probably ever could. I really enjoyed Ramsay's performance in this. The reactions to each of Riley's 5 wonders were brilliantly deployed. The photo booth, the escalators, the arcades, and the costume shop. As the pair move from wonder to wonder, we begin to discover a very different Ellie to the one we've spent the last 6 weeks with. This is an Ellie wide-eyed and in love, unburdened by the heavy weight of grief that's waiting just over the horizon. It may only be for a brief moment, but it's genuinely uplifting to see her like this, and makes the act of taking it all away even more heartbreaking. Before it culminates in a kiss, Ellie and Riley's relationship veers into what appears to be irreparable territory, upon the discovery that the latter is harbouring weapons for the Fireflies to use against Fedra. Whilst its slightly ham-fisted way of introducing dramatic tension, its half-resolved banner as Ellie tearfully departs then rapidly returns is a true-to-life reflection on partnerships that stay together no matter what. Then, after a faithful reaction of the "I got you babe" dance, the now more than friends share a kiss. But then the stalker attacks and the pair are bitten. Ellie's roar in response is a primal act of rage that leaps from screen and forms the genesis of her journey to come. Bella Ramsey makes so much of the tiny moments throughout, the stolen glances, the prettying up in the reflection of a lingerie store, that the emotional explosion stands out as a shuddering jolt. If you're keeping count, it also marks yet another happy ending snatched away from our main characters. If the episode does have a failing, it's that it's a little top-heavy. All in, Ellie and Riley getting to the mall takes up about 20 minutes of screen time, and that in itself isn't a cardinal sin. It's the fact that Riley's fatal injury and off-screen death and Joel's recovery is rattled through at a serious clip in the final 5 minutes. I mean, did we really need to meet the man who died from an overdose to know that the world's gone to shit? A little more room to breathe and this furious gut punch, the show's best up until now, would have landed a little bit better. I did really enjoy all the references and Easter eggs to the game again in the episode. We got to see Savage Starlight, Dawn of the Wolf Part 2, a water pistol reference, which is taken obviously from the game.
No, is it in your shirt? No, is it a water pistol?
Mortal Kombat 2, but my favourite out of it was probably the Macho Nacho scene, which is a bit of a rip-off of Taco Bell, but it is quite a large chain in the Naughty Dog universe, also referenced in Uncharted.
Paranoid psychopath?
Sounds like my first job.
What, the producer on your TV show?
No, my manager from Macho Nacho.
You worked at a Macho Nacho?
It was a high school job.
We also get plenty of nods towards Ellie's interests of both astronomy and dinosaurs. The episode circles back to that idea of belonging and family. While Joel obviously had a family before the apocalypse, Riley makes it clear that Ellie never knew that sort of love. I think you don't know everything, Riley tells her. You don't know what it was like to have a family, to belong. I mean, I didn't have them for long, but I had them. I belonged to them. And I want that again. Maybe the Fireflies aren't who I think they are, but they chose me. I matter to them. That need to belong or to matter is perhaps the central theme of The Last of Us, in that it is the central drive for these characters. Ellie is convinced that her life might matter if she can help provide a cure or a vaccine for the infection, that she might matter or belong to everybody. Joel seeks redemption for his failure to protect his daughter, and ultimately this seems to transcend any ideology or belief or any set of value systems. Riley might talk about the morality of fighting the fascist dickbags starving their own population, but really, she just wants people that she can call her own. Similarly, Ellie seems drawn to Fedra for the same reason. When she arrives in Captain Kwong's office, she studies the picture of his family. Later, trying to justify herself to Riley, she repeats Kwong's argument that Fedra is the civic glue that binds mankind to each other. In a way, Fedra kind of holds everything together. The Last of Us is in many ways about codependency, about what people need from one another, and how sometimes that need is simply to be needed. It's telling that Riley's monologue about needing to matter to the Fireflies is met with a simple response from Ellie.
You matter to me first.
Left Behind obviously owes a lot to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead with its post-apocalyptic mall setting. However, the flashbacks also pay homage to the more archetypal teenage movies. As Ellie and Riley share a wonderful evening in an abandoned mall, the show is offering its own riff on the mall culture of the 90s, the fantasy of teenage life suggested by movies like Mallrats or Clueless. It's the culture Ellie and Riley never got to enjoy before the world ended in 2003. So yes, Left Behind is awesome, and it does break you. In many ways, this is an anti-Bill and Frank story, a relationship ripped apart and not nurtured by the world around them. Where Bill and Frank were comfortable in their skin, Ellie and Riley are two people stumbling their way through teenage adolescence and all that comes with it. The love, the loss, and the not knowing what to do next. It's tragic and tender in equal measure. It's fitting then that the episode ends by essentially recalling Bill's parting note to Joel. Save one person. Ellie couldn't save Riley. She couldn't save Sam, but she can and does save Joel. The final image of the two holding hands, a lasting moment of connection that caps off an almost classic episode.